A little bit about me. I just joined GoEuro actually around 5 months ago and moved to Berlin from Dubai, quite opposite weather, especially right now. So I worked in online marketplaces before, in media and airlines. Lived in Dubai, Istanbul and Amsterdam. And at the moment I'm leading the monetization partnerships and B2B teams at GoEuro. Please just ask your questions anytime you want. The slides are just to set some basics for discussion, but I rather prefer to have an interactive session where you can ask any kind of questions you want. I think there are 2 rules to start with when we talk about monetization. First of all, there is no universally applicable rule for any company. You can easily copy paste. So every company, every business is different. It's good to know different monetization strategies, but at the end of the day, you need to find your own right mix because you know your product the best and you know your customer the best. Secondly, this is also very critical. Monetization doesn't mean that compromising user experience. It's the biggest challenge of monetization actually. Having it both is not easy, but you should have always user in mind first. At the end of the day, we are building products and companies to solve user problems. Yes, the company should be sustainable and should be making revenues, but not with compromising user behavior. So how do I see different monetization strategies? Just want to give some details about different approaches to monetization. Basically, also like in my teams, there are 2 basic monetization: consumer monetization and partner monetization, B2B and B2C monetization. Both has some advantages and disadvantages. And the best of the 2 worlds is also possible to have when you combine both strategies. It really depends on your business. To give some example, B2B focused companies are mostly, could be ad focused companies. Advertising business is a B2B business. All the basically media companies, Facebook, Google, even though some of the media companies are now moving to consumer monetization with subscription packages, but most of them are still ad-based businesses. Or it doesn't have to be ad-based. It can also be purely focused software as a service business, or a business where you only charge the supply partners with a commission-based revenue. A great example is Booking.com. What are the advantages and disadvantages of this model? First of all, it's not easy to scale a B2B business. You really need to have demand as well. It's like a chicken egg problem. Without having demand, it will be hard to attract the B2B clients. But it's easier to sustain because B2B revenues are more sustainable over the time. You don't have a lot of fluctuations when your main monetization strategy is focusing on B2B. And you can have a niche where there is less competition and higher entry barriers. And also the price sensitivity is less. If you really deliver a good value for your partner, that partner would like to work for you. It's very performance-based in that sense. Whereas great examples, as I said, media or commission-based businesses. Whereas in B2C, I think it's a lot easier to scale because end user is consumer. You are targeting a larger audience base at the end of the day. But it's a lot more competitive and a lot more price sensitive. And it may not be very sustainable because of, again, the fluctuations. The moment you don't meet the customer needs anymore, your revenues can suddenly go down. And a great example, I think, is Netflix at the moment, a purely B2C play. They used to have some advertising in their early days, but they completely removed advertising and then they completely focus on monetizing consumers via subscription business. As I said, there are some companies who are doing both. They are basically monetizing one side of their business, their supply with commission-based revenues and their demand via subscription. Amazon is a great example. They both charge the end user with their Amazon Prime subscription program, but they also charge the supply, meaning all the sellers via commission-based revenues. And on top, they have advertising revenue, again coming from supply. And they even have some extra services to charge the end user and supply even more. So Amazon is, I think, a great example which uses basically every monetization strategies for all different part of their users and clients. So if you are focusing on B2B, what could be some alternatives for you? Let's say you are GoEuro, like us. Basically, we are doing both B2B and B2C, but mostly focus right now is B2B. We have so many transport partners. Flixbus is one of those. We have more than 800 ground transport partners and so much more airline partners, where we charge a certain percentage of commission for every ticket we sell for them. So what are the advantages? If you have a new product or new company, and if you want to attract a partner, it's a lot easier to attract them with commission-based model, because the client, the partner, doesn't have much to lose, because they will pay commission only when you make a sale. So it's an easier barrier. They can say, okay, let's give it a try. That's exactly how it happens for GoEuro. Oh, I was not there, but 5 years ago when Naren first went to Deutsche Bahn with just like a suitcase and like no one around him, he said it's like it took 1.5 years to get the contract, but still at the end Deutsche Bahn was okay, whatever, let's try. It's really a great start for them, because once you have that one partner, the second partner will be easier, third partner will be a lot easier. So entry barrier is very important, but to get meaningful revenues, you need scale. You cannot depend a few partners to make your business sustainable. You need huge scale to make your business sustainable. But it's never enough. That's, I think, one thing you should keep in mind. It depends on the business, but in most cases, commission revenue won't be enough to sustain your business. You need to start thinking what else I can offer, how else I can monetize my product from day one. Even though you don't implement those from day one, you should build the product around that. Why commission revenue won't be enough? Because if you look at our industry, again, transportation, the commission revenues are only going down. I haven't seen any industry actually where commissions are going up, especially transportation. When I used to work for airline, we used to give around 20% commission to our distributors. Now it's around 2%. Yes, I'm not talking about 50 years ago. It's still like 10 years ago. 10 years ago. So it's going down significantly. If you look at the hotel business, the commission rates are a lot better. But again, as the competition grows, there's always someone who can offer lower commission and still have demand. In Amazon case, even in Amazon case, Amazon cannot be sustainable just charging the sellers a commission. They need to have that extra advertising business and prime business. So it's very important to keep in mind. You cannot create sustainability just on commission. Even though commission to start with is very high, let's say you charge 30%, 35%, keep in mind that it can always go down when the competition grows. So what else you can offer next to commission? You can offer subscription, meaning partners may need to pay a certain amount to list their product on your platform or being part of or to take your services. This is a bit higher entry barrier. It's hard to do it from day one unless your product is very strong and really solving a huge problem of a client. If it is the case, it's easier to start with subscription model from day one. But if it is not the case, it can come after maybe you start with commission model. You can try to switch to subscription model or find a combination of both. Again, if you look at Amazon, in many markets, what they do is you pay a fixed fee subscription, depending on the market, 30 euro, 40 euro, and on top they charge a commission. Why is it important? Subscription revenue is the best revenue in any kind of online businesses. Why? Because it's recurring. Why? Because there is this gym membership effect where a lot of users actually buy, but at the end of the day, underuse your product. Of course, some users buy and overuse your product, but at the end of the day, if you do the right pricing, underusing users will be big enough to compensate your overusing users plus your businesses, and hopefully will also leave some profits. I hope this is in your case. But yeah, subscription business is really the best you can get. Also, like if you're a startup, if you're a founder, in terms of company valuation, subscription revenue has the highest multiples in terms of company valuation, depending on the industry, of course, but in general, highest valuations come from subscription revenue. Third one, which is not the most popular one, especially towards a product and design-focused group. A lot of us believe that advertising disrupts user experience. That's why ad blockers are so popular. Yes, that's true. If you look at today, how the advertising is used today, most of it is a disrupting experience for users, but that doesn't have to be the way, really. If you really think well, if you do good user research, if you know your product well, if you know how you can use your partner's needs and client needs and how you can merge those together, you can find good products that can add value to the user and that can add value to your business. I think, again, a good example for this is advertising that helps user to find better products. If you open booking.com today, first page of results are mostly advertising. But on the other hand, it's also true that they have a system to allow advertising only hotels that has certain high ratings and has certain criteria, which is also good for users. And especially if you're a platform which has a lot of number of suppliers, promoting some of the suppliers you trust and who has certain service quality, but still charging those suppliers more for advertising is a win-win-win case. So user wins because they get first results more trustworthy partners. Company wins because they get more revenue, and the partner wins because they get more performance at the end of the day. But for this, you definitely need scale. I mean, advertising is a scale business. It's very hard to start advertising from day one unless you're a media business and you already have a large traffic coming from some resources. But advertising mostly comes after you scale your business, after you already have a lot of impressions, page views, searches, and suppliers. And finally, extra services. Here, I think, again, if you start this part, especially from day one, that can really change the way you approach to your partners. For each industry, these extra services can change, but think here as tools you can offer to your partners. Let's say you're Amazon. There is so much data in Amazon that as a seller, I would pay extra to get some insight and to get access to that information. Tell me the 100 best-selling products for each category. If you can offer me as an analytical tool, I would definitely pay more for that. Or imagine booking.com again. As a hotel, I would definitely pay more to get more insight. So if you are setting up a similar marketplace business or a product, it's very important to keep this in mind, the insight part of the analytics part of the business that you can monetize later. Why it's important to keep that in mind is from day one, when you're signing contracts with your clients, it's important to add these clauses that you can use this data, you can leverage this data for commercial purposes. In some countries it's easier, in some countries it's harder, but there's a lot of tools you can generate by using the insight on your platform. So this is mostly B2B parts. For B2C parts, it's a bit simpler. Biggest B2C revenues come from transaction. So you have a platform, you sell something. That's quite straightforward. It can be one-off sales or it can be subscription. As I said, again, subscription revenue is always a better way. For one-off purchases, you might have a higher profit margin because you probably charge a bit higher compared to subscription, but subscription is more stable income. And as I said, in the long term, the LTV, the lifetime value of user, will be a lot higher for subscription-based business. So try to turn into your product into a subscription if there is any way of doing it. Another one is service fee. That's again like as GoEuro, we have this. Basically what we do is like on top of the ticket price, we charge a booking fee in some markets for some providers. Depending on the commission revenue. If the commission revenue is not very high, very small for some providers in some markets, then we compensate it by charging it to users by adding a booking fee on top. We made a lot of research about booking fee because there is some people think that it's not a good user behavior, and that's the reason why users don't come to us. But actually, a lot of user research shows that as long as you offer a great customer service, people are fine paying additional 2-3 euros for that booking. So it really depends on how good your service is compared to competitors. If it is good enough, a lot of users will be fine paying the additional booking fee.
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
If you don't mind. So probably you also compared the opportunity in the service fee as well. When you said you compensate the commissions with the service fee, do you compensate it as the same amount, or do you think there's a bigger slice to get from the service fee?
There is a bigger slice, but depending on the market. For example, we don't have service fee in Germany, where we directly compete with Deutsche Bahn. We don't want our prices to be even €1 more expensive. But in some markets, let's say when we are selling in US, European tickets in US, there's a lot of room to increase the service room. Why? Because an American tourists are not familiar of where to find the tickets in Italy, from Trenitalia or Italo, which is the difference, what are those fare types. They don't have US dollar, even some sites don't have English, then they are very much willing to pay that additional fee for it.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all?
No, definitely not. It's about like knowing your competition very well and then adjusting it based on the market and also testing it. We constantly test the amount of service fee. How much shall we charge? Even like sometimes we round it, sometimes we put decimals. Even that can change the conversion at the end of the day. So there's a lot of pricing intelligence you need to put if you're adding some additional prices on top of transaction price. You need to test all the different assumptions. Payment is an interesting one. Payments can be a revenue generator for you. It can also basically push you to bankruptcy because of frauds. From day one, you should be thinking about fraud. That's for sure. On average, in e-commerce, there is 1% fraud. But if you take away all the very large companies with lots of anti-fraud resources, if you are just starting your business, your fraud rate will be a lot more than 1%. I can guarantee you, and that's a huge cost for the company, especially if you're a marketplace who is living on commission revenue, and then when you have frauds, you get X% commission, but when there's fraud, you give all the money back. So it's a huge cost for the company. so you need to be careful there. But it can also be a source of revenue. How? First of all, many companies does it. It's not a secret. It's FX markups. If you are selling globally, when the user buys in one currency, when your listed currency is different, there's always a currency markup there. And that can be significant in some markets. And secondly, payment providers. Some payment providers can offer you monetization options as well. And if you push that payment provider, you can get more money from them. And thirdly, which is not really EU related, but can be meaningful in some markets, credit card fees. You can charge usage of some credit card fees and pass your credit cards to the end user, but that's not very, I would say, user-friendly method. Again, yeah.
Maybe one question. The second point you mentioned was monetization that the PSP payment service provider can offer you. What is that, or what would be examples for that?
Can you repeat the question? So
you're asking like some kind of payment providers can also be a source of revenue for you. There are some companies who monetizes that. It can be some installment-focused payment companies who charge an extra amount for the interest rate and share that with you. Let's say you are selling a $1,000 air ticket, and if you use a installment payment provider, which divides it into 10 different installments, but charge the user 1,100 euros at the end of the day, you can get commission for the interest amount.
Okay.
And if you push that payment method, it can be source of revenue for you. And again, here, extra services is something you should keep in mind. A lot of like consumer-focused products don't really have much more to offer here. But if you think of like some good examples, you can add again some tools that some super users might be willing to pay. It can be giving some premium features, some loyalty features. It can add some VIP features that only some users will use. But again, it's something to think when you create a product that the super users might be willing to pay more for your services. I think that's it for B2C monetization.
Yeah.
So at GoEuro, how we do it, we started as a commission-based business, charging only the suppliers X percentage of the total price. Then we introduced service fee in some markets, as I mentioned. Now we introduced recently extra services. You can buy insurance for your trip at the checkout. You can add car rental. If you are going to an airport, you can add car rental at the checkout. You can add hotel to your booking. And these are all extra services we charge the end user. And soon we will also start pushing some advertising and ranking some of the providers differently and showing some extra value they offer for the user and charging the users a different amount for that. And also advertising for some different travel services. That's how we see monetization so far. But subscription is something like a dream scenario when we discuss internally. Wouldn't it be amazing if we have like one subscription so we can go anywhere we want, unlimited with that one subscription? I think that's really an amazing product. So from the user perspective, but financially and operationally, it's not very easy to manage for now. Well, that's it from my side. Any questions? Yeah.
So thanks a lot for contrasting all of the different monetization